the angiotensin receptor blockers put together, which has the deleterious effects the patient may get into hyperkalemia. Hyperkalemia is an emergency, the medical serious medical emergency condition, and the patient may get into fulminant renal failure and may just get into AKI, the acute kidney injury, which may be very lethal. He may require the hemodialysis. If it is not there, the patient will succumb to death. So never combine these particular AC inhibitors with ARBs. That is the only forbidden combination in the entire armamentarium of the therapy of hypertension. And when the systolic blood pressure is around or more than 20 millimeters of mercury, you have to go for a combination therapy. And when the diastolic blood pressure is around 10 milligram or more than 10 milligram above the goal, that is per se I tell you, like okay, the patient is on AC inhibitor or ARB, either one of the agents, and the blood pressure is somewhere around some 150 bar 80 millimeters of mercury or 130 bar 90 millimeters of mercury, then apart from the non-pharmacological therapy, you apart from that particular one single agent, you have to add another class of drug to this particular. This is what the guidelines tell us. So, and the last is the compelling indications. The present may benefit from different mechanism of action of multiple antihypertensives. They see in hypertension there are certain indications like the indications are divided into the compelling indications and non-compelling indications. Like you take this AC inhibitor or ARB, the compelling indication is suppose the patient has got hypertension and other comorbidities like diabetes, the patient has to be on either AC inhibitor or ARB. That is a compelling indication for AC inhibitor. Or the patient has got hypertension with heart failure, that becomes the compelling indication for either AC inhibitor or ARB. Like you take beta blockers. Say the compelling indications of beta blockers are the acute myocardial infarction, or the post myocardial infarction, or the post PCI, that is percutaneous coronary percutaneous coronary intervention, PCI, post PTCA. That earlier we used to call it PTCA, that is percutaneous transluminal coronary angioplasty with stenting. Now the modified term is simple PCI. The post PCI or post CABG, that is coronary artery bypass grafting, CABG. So these are the compelling indications for beta blockers. So likewise, every molecule has got a compelling indication. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yeah, now we come to triple drug combination. So, when we need this triple drug combination, actually, this is the slide. Okay, yes. The triple drug combination, the important study called HEART study, that is hypertension optimal study, the more than 3.3 drugs were required for a patient in that particular hypertension optimal study. That was aimed at a diastolic blood pressure goal of less than 80 millimeters of mercury. See, it's more than 3 drugs they have used. Apart from the lifestyle modifications and the therapeutic lifestyle changes and the DASH, DATE and all blah blah blah, what I said, the non-pharmacological therapy, the more than 3.3 drugs were required for a patient to get a diastolic target goal of less than 80 millimeters of mercury. And the Anglo Scandinavian cardiac outcome trial, blood pressure lowering arm, that's what ASCAT BP law, that most of the patients, that 78% were taking at least 2 antihypertensive agents. This shows that very clearly these studies tell us that one single antihypertensive agent is not sufficient to get back to the target goal of blood pressure. So the patient either requires 2 drugs or 3 drugs, sometimes more than that. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Hello. No. There was one more slide we skipped. The triple drug combination. There was one more slide prior to this. Please. No. You are going forward. Okay. Just go backwards. Okay. No. You are going forwards. Yeah. Before that. Yeah. Now. Yes. Yeah. Triple. Yeah. This is the one. Yes. Thank you so much. The triple drug combination. So if the goal BP cannot be reached with 2 drugs, add and titrate the 3rd drug from the list provided. That is the earlier we used to have before the JNC 7 has coming to vogue, we had 5 groups of antihypertensive drugs in the first list, that is the primary drugs of hypertension. So that was ABCD actually. You remember ABCD, everything will come. A stands for ACE inhibitors, A stands from ARBs, A stands from alpha blockers, and B stands for beta blockers, C stands for calcium channel blockers, and D stands for this diuretics. So once the JNC 7 came into vogue, it has taken off the alpha blockers from the first line of antihypertensive drugs, because it literally failed to prove the cardiovascular benefits in the ALHA trial. That is the landmark trial in this particular field of hypertension. ALHA trial is nothing but this is the antihypertensive and lipid lowering treatment to prevent the heart attack trial. This is where that particular arm did not show, the alpha blocker arm did not show any benefits. So the highest events of heart attacks and the strokes were recorded in that particular the alpha blocker group. So they have taken it and terminated from and it has been removed from the first line of drugs of antihypertensive in JNC 7. So, and what has happened later on in JNC 8, when it has come in 2014, it deleted even beta blockers also from the first line of antihypertensive group. So now what is left over is, after JNC 8, we have only A, C, D. That is either angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors, AC inhibitors, or the ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers, and calcium channel blockers. Again, calcium channel blockers are divided into dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers and the non-dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers. The dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers are the amlodipine and the cilnidipine and the benidipine and the azilnidipine. The latest drug that has come into vogue is azilnidipine. These are all the latest ones, which have got the dual blockade, the triple blockade, the LN channel and LNT channels. So they have got their own advantages, but the robust data we have got only with amlodipine, because these have very sparse studies. Either the cilnidipine or the benidipine or the latest one, the molecule from Japan, that is Takeda, that is azilnidipine. Though it is a very, very superior drug, proving to be very superior, but it doesn't have the robust studies when compared to amlodipine. Amlodipine is the one that is to be used in the first order. That's what I feel. So the dihydropyridine group is pertain to treating hypertension, whereas non-dihydropyridine, whereas the non-dihydropyridine, that is the verapamil and the diltiazem, they are more useful in controlling the ventricular arrhythmias or the heart blocks. They are not the drugs of choice Hello, the slide has come to, please. Yeah, please. So, dihydropyridines are the antihypertensive agents, starting from amlodipine to cilnidipine to benidipine to azilnadipine, whereas the non-hydropyridine CCBs like verapamil and diltiazem, they are confined to either to control the ventricular arrhythmias or in the field of the cardiology especially. And hypertensive patients whose blood pressures are more than 20 millimeters and above, their goal will often require 3 or more medications. And we have forgotten to talk about the diuretics, and the third one is diuretics. First is ACE inhibitors and ARBs, second is CCBs, and the leftover third is this particular diuretics. The diuretics are again divided into the thiazide group of diuretics and the loop diuretics and the mineralocorticoid MRAs, mineralocorticoid antagonists. That is, the thiazide group of diuretics will be like hydrochlorothiazide and chlorthalidone, and the indapamide, they are called the thiazide group of diuretics. And the loop diuretics, the furosemide, and long time has come the torsemide. Now it's proving to be the wonderful drug along the loop diuretics. And the MRAs, that's what the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonists. That is either the spironolactone or the eplerenone. These are the drugs which fall under the category of diuretics. So usually we use the thiazide group of diuretics and thiazide-like group of diuretics. And usually we tend to use all the time. You used hydrochlorothiazide, and now high time we have to forget about hydrochlorothiazide, because it is showing the very deleterious effects in the other associated comorbidities with hypertension like diabetes and all. It's proven to be a very bad drug that has got the potential to induce this hyponatremia, and that has got the potential to cause dysglycemia in diabetes, or even otherwise also. It's a diabetogenic drug actually. This particular the thiazide, this hydrochlorothiazide. Now it doesn't have any cardiovascular outcomes with hydrochlorothiazide. So the only diuretics, only thiazide-like diuretics which have got the cardiovascular outcomes proven by many studies are only two. That is, one is chlorthalidone, either in the dose of 12.5 milligram or in the elderly population 6.25 milligram, and the second is indapamide. These two molecules have got the best cardiovascular outcome. So whenever you want to select a drug from this the diuretics, whenever you are treating hypertension, you select chlorthalidone. That is the number one drug preferred with the best cardiovascular outcomes. And yeah, next slide please. This is over. Please, next slide please. Yeah, what guidelines say? See, these are all the guidelines. See, this is 2014 hypertension guidelines. So this is the first thing is the European Society of Hypertension bar European Society of Cardiology 2013 guidelines, and this is the next is CHEP, that is the Canadian Hypertension Education Program, and next is ADA 2013, that is the American Diabetes Association guidelines, and next is KDIGO, that is KDIGO is nothing but the kidney disease improving the global outcomes. And next is the NICE guidelines. This is from UK. NICE is from UK. This is the National Institute for Health and Clinical Excellence. And the last is it is ISH-IB, that is the International Society of Hypertension in blacks. This was a study done in especially blacks, means the African Americans or the native Africans. And all the guidelines, you see the age is around the population. These are the names of the guidelines, the studies, and the population is over the 60 years or below 60 years, and the goal BP at that time it was different. At 14 it was a different scenario, and the initiation of the drug treatment options was in the non-blacks it was thiazide and the diuretic, thiazide type diuretic, and the AC inhibitors or ARBs or CCBs. If it is in the blacks, it is thiazide or CCB. Like if the particularly if it is in case of CKD, the chronic kidney disease and diabetes, it is the choice, drug of choice is only ACE inhibitor or ARB. Even in the 2013 guidelines also, it's see, you can see this particular diuretic or beta blocker, CCB or AC or ARB. And in special groups like diabetes, it is always AC. That's what I have told you. Like the compelling indication of either ACNA or ARB will be like the other comorbidities like diabetes or heart failure. It is definitely this thing. And the chronic kidney disease also, either with proteinuria or without proteinuria, these are the drugs of choice, either the angiotensin converting enzymes or the angiotensin receptor blockers. And you can go through this table. And the beta, where is the place for beta blockers actually? The place for beta blockers is they are preferred in the elderly in the presence of documented ischemic heart disease. Without that, you cannot use this beta blocker in the elderly. Elderly means above 65. You cannot use a beta blocker as a first line of choice without the presence of the ischemic heart disease or the coronary artery disease. So next slide please. Next slide please. Yeah, these are the types of triple drug combinations. Okay. So this is this slide is about the European Society of Cardiology and European Society of Hypertension, that is ESC bar ESH 2018 guidelines. What happened as time evolved, as the evidence-based data started coming in, flowing in, many of the countries have got its own bodies. Like in America, you find the American Heart Association and the American Diabetes Association, the American College of Cardiology, the American Heart Association, and the American College of Endocrinology, the American Association for the Clinical Endocrinologists. These are the bodies, and the JNC, and they started giving the guidelines. Likewise, we had International Society of Hypertension, that is ISH, bar WHO guidelines. In the beginning of this hypertension guidelines, we used to have the World Health Organization along with the International Society of Hypertension. They had their own guidelines. And later on, what it did is, it asked, the WHO has asked the European Society of Cardiology and the European Society of Hypertension to formulate its own guidelines for European segment actually, because the treatment of options and the guidelines, they go with the ethnicity, race, whether it is black or white, the African or the European or the Indian or the African. So that's how these evolved. And the British people, the UK people had BSH, that is British Society of Hypertension. So they started like a lot of confusion in the clinicians, what to follow, what not to follow. And to the best of my knowledge, we are supposed to follow the American Heart Association bar the American College of Cardiology guidelines for the management of hypertension is the best on the earth. We should always follow, because there is lot of difference between the guidelines, whereas this either ADA or the American Heart Association or the American College of Cardiology, they simply say that the target is definitely less than 130 bar 80 or 120 bar 80. And the ESH, the European Society of Hypertension and the European Society of Cardiology, They say if it is less than 140 or 90 is also normal. So we don't want that particular European guidelines to be implemented in our scenario, which is not yielding the results. Because even in the latest American guidelines, that's what AHF or ACC guidelines, they have noticed several cardiovascular events. Earlier, this particular category was called like pre-hypertension, like we have pre-diabetes, like impaired fasting glucose plus the IGT, that is impaired glucose tolerance, is termed as pre-diabetes. And now still we have the term pre-diabetes, but there was a term according to this JNC 7, the pre-hypertension. Pre-hypertension is nothing but 130 to 139 systolic and 80 to 89 diastolic is called pre-hypertension. Earlier it was called pre-hypertension. Now it is categorized as stage 1 hypertension, not the English numericals 1 2 no, and anything above that is stage 2, that is 140 bar 90 is classified as stage 2. So the difference between this thing is the pre-hypertension, that is the blood pressure in between 130 to 139 and 80 to 89 of diastolic have the similar worst cardiovascular outcomes what we see in the other patients population suffering from the hypertension. So this is also very important to keep in mind that 130 to 139 also is to be treated systolic, 80 to 89 is also treated diastolic with non-pharmacological treatment to start with, and then add one molecule of your choice according to the patient's condition, whether he has got hypertension alone, whether he is young, whether he is male or female. Because suppose I want to give an example in this regard. A female in the reproductive period who wants to contemplate pregnancy, if she comes to you, you cannot put the patient at any cost on either AC inhibitors or ARBs, because at any point of time she conceives and she becomes pregnant. There have been noticed the multiple deleterious effects of AC inhibitors or ARBs in that particular, the fetal complications in that particular female. So all the time be judicious while putting a pen on the paper. So see the patient, see whether the young male or young female, and for example I tell you, young male comes to you in the reproductive period, don't put him on the beta blocker, because every chance of getting into the erectile dysfunction or the sexual dysfunction may take place. So likewise, you have got some compelling indications and the ideal molecules to be chosen. And the elderly, that is what we say that ISH, that is isolated systolic hypertension, usually we see it in the elderly population, where the drug of choice is only the calcium channel blocker. Preferably the amlodipine is the best molecule for that particular age. And the patient who has got hypertension along with diabetes, then the first drug of choice becomes either the AC inhibitor or the ARB, and then a combination of, if it is not controlled with that, then you have to go for, I prefer to start with a double agent, like the AC inhibitor or ARB plus a calcium channel blocker would be the ideal combination, and the third drug should be a diuretic. And if it is not controlled, that is a case of resistant hypertension. And I mind you once again, there is no term called malignant hypertension in this latest nomenclature, the international nomenclature. Please, you have to forget about the malignant hypertension, where when we were taught in our medical school days, we were taught like malignant hypertension, and there is no such term that exists now. It is replaced by a term called resistant hypertension. The per se, the resistant hypertension is when the patient is keeping healthy and not running temperature or something else, and strictly abiding by the non-pharmacological therapy followed by the three agents are pharmacological agents, and out of three, one should be preferably a diuretic. If the patient is not able to, even though the patient takes the medicines very regularly, follows the DASH diet and does exercise and he tries to reduce his weight, he quits smoking, he or she quits alcohol and still not to the target, we have to label it as resistant hypertension, not malignant hypertension. So coming back to this, as per the ESC and ESH 2018 guidelines, this is the reference taken from the 2018 European Heart Journal. So what it says is the initial therapy should be a dual combination, and the preferably ACE or ARB plus a beta blocker or calcium channel blocker, or the second regime will be either a CCB plus diuretic or a beta blocker, or a beta blocker plus a diuretic. So this is what I mean to say is you have to choose one from this basket, either ACE or ARB. You add beta blocker or calcium channel blocker, that is dual therapy, dual combination, or you take CCB and you add diuretic or beta blocker, or you take beta blocker plus diuretic, that is the initial therapy, that is called the dual combination. And consider monotherapy in the low risk grade of grade 1 hypertension, that is okay. All the time I told you the grade 1 hypertension you have to try with the non-pharmacological therapy with one pharmacological agent. That is according to this European Society, the guidelines and the figures totally vary and you get confused. They say it is grade 1, I said like okay, it is 130 to 139 systolic and 80 to 89 diastolic is called stage 1 hypertension according to American guidelines, whereas less than 150 systolic and less than 80 is called grade 1 hypertension in as per the European Society of Cardiology or European Society of Hypertension guidelines. So this is little bit confusing, but they have kept it as at a higher level. Maybe that holds good for that particular European population, but not to the Indian population especially. Since we are dealing with our patients, the Indian scenario, where we take little bit of spicy food and all, where we tend to add salt and all, where the Britishers are, they are the Westerners, are the Canadians, or the Europeans, whatever it may be, they take very less quantities of salt, but they also consume large quantities of salt in America, just because they are using the processed and the ultra processed food right now. So they are also consuming more than 10 to 11 grams of salt every day, just like our Indians. And step 2 is triple drug combination. Triple drug combination of the above, that's what, either AC inhibitor or ARB plus beta blocker plus CCB, or CCB plus diuretic plus beta blocker, or you can interchange like from these groups. And consider initiating therapy when systolic BP is more than 130 and in these very high risk patients with established CVD. So this triple drug is indicated when still you are not able to reach this particular the goal of less than 130 with established CVD, because there is a risk factor, the CVD is the risk factor there. So you need a meticulous control of the blood pressure. And step 3 is the triple drug combination plus spironolactone or any other drug. That's what I told you. The resistant hypertension has come now. So resistant hypertension, you have to I told you already the definition of resistant hypertension. So in this particular category, you have to add the MRA apart from all the drugs cited above. You have to add spironolactone 25 to 50 milligram once a day. That is the best drug of choice is spironolactone. And already the resistant hypertension means to that